Hey, this is Phil from Race City Retro, and it's a miserable Saturday afternoon outside, but it's always a beautiful day when you're inside working on your hot rod. We're moving right along, right on my new 55 Chevy project car, and today what I'm going to do is I'm going to start tearing this engine down. And when I say tearing it down, I don't mean pulling it apart for a rebuild. When I bought this car, it ran and drove. I drove it up on the trailer myself, drove it off the trailer, but it's open header. You don't hear much. Don't ever buy a car open header, man. Always give it a good listen because it could have a rod knock, could have a noisy valve train. It sounded good. I didn't want to run it too long because this car was in a garage since 1971. It got parked in the 80s and it hadn't been looked at again for years. The guy put an under the hood gas tank in it. He put a fresh battery in it. He got it running again to sell it. And that's where I bought it. So the oil in this engine is ridiculously old. I want to take a look at everything. When an engine sits a long time, it gets condensation inside, especially with open header. If it was in a moist area, you can get a lot of moisture in where you'll get rust. I've seen engines where when you pull the valve covers, the valve train from being dry so long, you have rusty rockers, you have rusty push rods. You don't want to run an engine like that where you're getting rust is oxidized metal. So rust chips are sharp. You don't want them getting into the bearings. You don't want them getting in your oil pan, getting ground up into the oil pump. So we want to make sure, before I go any further with this car, I want to make sure this engine's decent inside. What I've been told, it was completely rebuilt, installed in the car. I'm assuming the cam was broken in. I plan to pull the intake manifold and take a look inside just to make sure everything looks good with the cam. I don't see any wiped out lobes or anything like that. It was different. At the time this engine was built, you could break in a cam for about 5 minutes. They cut the lifters so right. Everything was made here in America. It was good quality stuff. You didn't have to be so nervous with putting a hydraulic cam into a car. So I think it's okay. It sounds good. It sounds like he said it's got a cam in it. It sounds a little rumpety to me, but that could be stale gas. That could be, bad spark plugs. That could be a lot of things. When people sell stuff, you got to take everything with a grain of salt. Always prepare that, you're going to have to do things they say you're not going to have to do. It's always runs great, needs nothing until you get it home. Then when you get it home, it's a different story. So today, we're going to pull the valve covers, going to pull the intake manifold. I want to take the headers off it. I'm going to take the water pump off because I have a new one for it. And things like that are just good preventive maintenance. The water pump is cheap. You have this whole car apart. It takes you 2 seconds to put it on now versus the side of the road somewhere. The reason I want to change the headers is because I'm going to put a power steering box in this car. These headers are very close to the steering box. They're not going to work with the more modern power steering box. So I have a pair of headers that'll go on this that'll work with that box. I also plan to change the ignition over to electric ignition, electronic. I have a Petronix. It's small, like the factory cap. It's not an HEI. When you change over to an HEI on these cars, be prepared. You're either going to have to smash the firewall, which this one's never had an HEI in it. It's got a beautiful firewall. Or you're going to have a scenario where your distributor is going to rub against the firewall. They do make motor mounts that moves the engine forward a little bit, but you got to remember when you do that, now you're moving everything forward, which means if you got a stick, the Z-bar setup, everything's coming forward. Trans mounts, all that stuff, your exhaust system, the headers. So before you jump into that, just make sure it's going to work for your application. So let's take a good look at this engine and let's go over what we're going to do and what I'm looking for step by step. Okay, there's a reason Chevy made 8 trillion of these engines because they're really good engines. Super easy to work on. If there's any V8 out there, if you're a beginner to start with, to learn on, to cut your teeth on, man, the Small Block Chevy is it. Supposedly, this is a 327 4-barrel motor, which means it's probably a 283. I haven't checked the numbers on the back. Like I said, when people sell cars, they tell you everything. But one of the things I did notice, it's got a cast iron 4-barrel intake, and it's got the good heads, the camel humps, the fuely heads. Everybody calls them something different. Back in the day, this head was state of the art. They had two versions of it. They had a 194 valve and a 202 valve. So if you were building a hot small block Chevy, the camel humps are what you wanted. And they called it that because if you could see, the casting, this right here, looks like a camel hump. The power packs had like a pyramid. Chevy used different symbols. I don't know if that was just ironic or if it was purposely done for identification when you looked at it. This is your suffix code pad. If you sand this down, you'll see some numbers stamped in here that you can look up that'll tell you information on the block. And one of the things I plan to do, because I'm going to put the power steering box in this car, I'm going to move the alternator over to this side of the engine, so I have the mounts for this side of the engine. This intake is coming off. I'm going to put an aluminum intake that I have on it, and these headers are coming off. Like I said, I got to swap to those other headers. I'm going to swap out the fuel pump. Good preventive maintenance. Look how easy it is to swap right here instead of on the side of the road. I hate when you hear people, oh, I'm just going to send it. I'm going to leave it. And then by the end of the video, the fuel pump's leaking. Oh, man, I wish I would have changed it. Or the water pump's leaking. Look at the antifreeze coming out of the weep hole. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this pump's out the door. So we're going to put a fresh one on. I'm going to inspect all this stuff. Those are the original. They call these motor mounts elephant ears. That's the street name for them that Chevy used. Nice and simple. Lots of bushing here or there. Lots of isolation. You can change these to side mounts if your block has the provisions for it. They make kits that bolt right to the frame. You got to drill a few holes if that's your thing. These work fine for me. I'm not building a 500 horsepower race car. This car is just going to be a cruiser. When at, 300, 3.25 horse, maybe. I don't need anything more than those. Those work good. So I may replace them, but actually the rubber doesn't even look bad. If you see these are dry rotted, cracked on your car, change them. Or you're going to get, engine movement. You're going to get vibration. You're going to get stuff you're not going to want to get. The motor will be moving around. But those look pretty good. But we will, we'll inspect them further. As you get older in life, you learn to work smarter, not harder. I love my tool cart. It's just got basically every socket, ratchet, impact, air tool, take bolts and nuts off. And I like it because you can bring it to the car. It's got a little pop-up tray. So like I said, as you get older, you learn to work smarter, not harder. Having your tools right next to you makes life easy. Also, part of working smarter, put some gloves on, protect your hands before you start this. All right, let's get that valve cover off. Okay, if you take a look at this small block Chevy under the hood of this 55 or any other Tri-5, take notice. One of the reasons these cars did so damn good on the drag strip, weight distribution. If you look at that upper control arm, A-frame, whatever you want to call it, notice how the engine is almost completely behind the center line of the front wheel. See this here? Puts the motor back where it should be. Now in the 50s and 60s too, the guys that were real serious racers would notch out the firewall and push the motor back another 6 inches to make the weight distribution even better. When you're drag racing a car, weight distribution is crucial for traction, for launch, for stability. This was right from GM, so you can see the center of the ball joint. Look at that. It's almost dead on. So that's why these things were loved by drag racers. And they were cheap. They were everywhere. So that's why they got scooped up. And a lot of them got turned into gassers and drag cars over the years. But that's a perfect view, what you're looking at right there, as to the engine setback that the Tri-5s have. You'll see a lot of cars and motors sitting out over the cradle, where this, it's pushed back. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, so like what I had said earlier, before you go pulling valve covers off or intake manifolds off, clean this thing out really good. Give me a second. I'm going to hit it quick again. I did it once. You don't want any dirt getting into your engine or under your valve cover, especially if you got a car that's got like, mouse droppings under here, acorns. Get the top of the valve cover as well. All right. Thank you. I love my shop vac. The valve cover bolts on this thing, I believe, are a 7/16. Let's get my bolt tray. All right, get all your bolts. Make sure there's no washers that are gonna drop in. This is a rare AC PVC valve delete. They use those on the racing Corvettes. See, now behind that thing, there's a bunch of dirt we're gonna suck out of there first. Look at these, Cal Custom. That's pretty cool. All right. Oh. All right, we'll grab that later, push these back. When I zipped up that top one, a whole bunch of dirt dropped out. Let's hit that again quick. When you're taking your valve covers off, it's best not to use a screwdriver if you don't have to. Try not to bend these things. Depending on how long, you could take like a dead blow hammer, knock them loose. So you're not prying up, bending all the lips. Because then if you're reusing these valve covers, there's a good chance you're going to cause a leak where there shouldn't be one. Okay, wow. That's impressive. That looks really, really good. And I see shiny push rods. I'm going to zoom in so you can see too in a minute. I'm taking it all in here. All right, I think this guy was shooting me straight. I couldn't ask for anything better to pull a valve cover off and see. Everything looks really nice. The oil smells dirty because it's old, but everything's still shining. I don't see a lot of rust, scale. Looks to be in really good shape. I don't see any ridiculously loose rockers, even though the lifters are pumped down now. And down in the bottom, I don't see a ton of sludge. So this motor hasn't been ran that long, so it's probably being honest as far as it being rebuilt. It looks pretty clean. All right, let's hope that we see the same under the other valve cover. Let me pull that one off. Okay, on this side, it looks similar, but if you'll notice in the back there, it is starting to get a little bit of scale. I think I caught it in time. If you look down by that head bolt, like in this area, where I can get that cleaned out of there, it hasn't caused too much damage. The rockers and push rods look good. We'll know better when I cut the oil filter open, if any scale got into it. And looks pretty good. Let me show you the bottom of the valve covers too. That's, you know, you're doing detective work here. You don't know the history of this car. You don't know if what this guy's telling you is true, not true. You know, anybody you buy a car from, you can't believe a word that they tell you. Their main goal is to just sell the car, moving on to you. But he seemed like a pretty honest old guy. You know, could be stuff he forgot over the years too, as far as the details. But I'm happy. I mean, I bought this car basically as a body, and I figured if I got to put an engine in it, I'll put an engine in it. Small block Chevy stuff's easy to find. Let's look at, take a look at these valve covers. Okay, now the valve covers tell a different story. You see how the rust is starting? That's what I'm talking about. When stuff sits for a long time, you're going to start getting rust under the valve covers, which then it's going to work its way down to the rockers, the push rods, all that, you know, exposed metal, because it hasn't had, if it's not ran, it's not getting splashed with oil to protect the metal. It's just all bare metal. Let's take a look at this side. This side, it's starting also, but I think we got it in time. I don't think there's a ton of scale in this engine, but we won't know until we pull the oil. See in the back there, you can see some scale starting. You know, these are the things you got to look for first. Don't go putting the whole car together, driving it around, you know, and then you blow it up and you go, man, because you could have prevented all this by taking care of, you know, getting this stuff out of here. But let's pull the intake and see what's hiding under the intake. That's definitely a, you know, an area you want to look at the valley of the engine when you're doing your your engine diagnosis. All right, let's get started on that intake. First, we're going to pull the distributor. Okay, with the small block Chevy, when you're going to take a intake manifold off the engine, the distributor has to come out because the distributor drops down through the intake manifold. If you were doing this where you were going to drop it back in, use these wires again, it's a good idea to mark everything if you're unfamiliar, or even if you are familiar, you can mark these in firing order, or what I do, super quick and easy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Little blue tape and a pen. Put them on 1, 2, 3. What I need to know when I pull this out, I just want to know which way the rotor's pointing because I'm putting a new distributor in it and all new wires. Once I know where the rotor's pointing and where my number 1 is, I can just rerun the firing order, which I'll show you how to do that when we do put the new distributor in. So let's get this out of the way. Let's take the distributor out. Then we can work on getting this manifold out. I'm going to cut this hose too to get it out of the way. Okay, so when you take this distributor out, there's got to be a certain order just to access the bolts underneath. First thing I'm going to do is just take that cap off to get it out of my way. Now, if you've never done a small block Chevy points type distributor, similar to every other, it's got a spring-loaded screw on each side. There's the one. I already got the other one off. I took the coil wire off too. So now we can lift this cap and get it out of the way. And we're going to pull, we'll do one side. And if you notice, I marked the number 1 on this cap just to remind me where it is in case I was putting this thing back, let's say, not doing the new distributor. This way you can figure out your firing order and get the car in time. You could also mark the base of the distributor to the manifold. All right, there you go. That side's off. Let's pull these out. Let's get this cap over here. Okay, now you can see the rotor's pointing to there. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a picture with my camera. Just reminds me which way it's facing. Your camera is a great tool while you do stuff like this. Next thing we're gonna do is take the coil out of the way because we removed the cap. Now we can access both of the coil bolts. These wires, I'm just gonna snip. If you weren't rewiring the car, you would just unbolt these, but these have no more use in my life. You know what? Does this come off? I'll save that. I want to clip it for the distributor. Let's say if I ever needed that distributor again, it's got value to someone out there, I'm sure. Okay, let's take this coil out and always break your bolts loose first. There we go. If we had any issue, we could just hit them with some PB Blast. Notice this coil's mounted straight up. It's always best when an oil-filled coil to mount this end as vertical as possible. People turn them on their sides and stuff, and what it does is coil's got oil in it that keeps it cool. It's sitting perfect. Now, if you turn it on its side, one side of it runs dry, and it could burn the coil up a lot sooner, and then people start thinking they have electrical problems, when it's really, they just ran the coil, overheated it, and burnt it up. Yeah, that's a nice little clean setup. Watch your open head, too, over here. Oh, let's get this bolt out of here. I got to get my magnet going soon. Okay, now, see how you can see everything better now? To pull the distributor, if it was on the car with a valve cover and everything, you would use this, a distributor wrench. Helps you sneak it under there. Let me put a little light under there too so you can see what we're doing. See the way the distributor bolt is set up? Distributor's got a tab that holds it down. There you go. Put that right there. You know, some of you guys may know this, some of you guys may not. I'm going to show it for those who don't. I like to teach on my videos. I don't dance, so I got to teach. Once I learn some dance moves, then I could jump over to TikTok and dance for everyone. Okay, that's pretty loose. Now you can rotate this, get it out of your way a little more. And what we're looking to do is take this bolt completely out to take the distributor hold down clamp off. On these old cars, they never Move out super quick. And when you lift this up, you're just going to go straight up and out with it, but just make sure nothing falls down in that hole, man. Work slowly, because if you drop something down in there, it doesn't end good, especially if you don't know it. Boy, that thing's in there tight. And see why I wear gloves, because man, you don't know where you're sticking your fingers, but it's pretty dry back here. Okay. Now, once again, too, watch this dirt. Get that out of there if you got your vacuum around. You don't want to blow too much because you don't want to get it in the engine. All right. Let's go. Whoa, there we go. All right. It's on a gear, so you got to wiggle. Uh-oh. Wiper motor's in the way. Look at that. All right, we're going to have to pull this wiper motor out because that ain't coming out. You know, I should have remembered that. I've been through this before, but it's Saturday. All right, let's take this wiper motor out. Looks like just a couple bolts, and she's good. All right, and that's what it was hitting. All right, let's get that wiper motor out of the way, which was going to come off this thing anyway, because I want to paint this firewall down. Let's get that thing zipped and get it out of there. Okay, the wiper motor comes out real simple. See, there's 2 screws here. You're going to take each of those out. Let's get those out of our way because we don't want to fall in the engine. Put them in your bolt holder. And this screw holds the cable. These are cable operated. If you want to disconnect it, you can. If not, you could just move this over to the side. All right, so now we have it where our distributor will. There we go. All right, distributor's out. There you go. Let's shoot this down. Okay, distributor's out. That sending unit there, that's for your oil pressure light. Or if you have a gauge. All right, so now we're going to move on to the intake. And basically with a small block Chevy intake, you have these bolts right here. You can take those out here. Get that out of the way here. And like I said, remember to keep this clean. Get as much junk out of here as you can, because when we pull this, we don't want anything to drop down into the engine. All right, and up front, we're going to cut this hose. We're going to take this bracket off too, so that this baby's ready to lift. All right, let's start zipping these bolts out. And these are just a 9/16. Break them loose first. I've got my magnetic tray there. And see, it's nice taking it off this way, the intake, because you got nothing in your way, no carb. Front end's off the car. I mean, unless this engine was on an engine stand, it couldn't be much easier. Break them loose. There you go. Watch this in the back. Don't drop nothing in it. Be careful. Ooh, that one's tight. Oh, there we go. Man, if I got to hit it that many times, it's almost like, what's the point of the battery? Oh, this is a scary one. Got it. All right, back here. And then when we put the new intake on, everything will be nice and clean and painted up. We'll talk about torquing down an intake and it to settle down right. Like I said, I'm showing you every step of the way. I do detailed videos. This way you get entertained and you learn. Every day of your life you can learn something new. I don't care how much experience you have. There's always a different way, or just addition to the way you do it, you might learn something. Everybody does the same job differently. is what I learned in my life. And hopefully there's not a big giant mouse nest under this intake or anything spooky. Because then my next video is going to be pulling the 55 Chevy's engine. And we don't want that. Like I said, it ran good, but you don't know what's in it until you investigate. That's trapped forever now. Okay. All right, this one I'm going to need a deep. Let's see. Maybe? Oh yeah, let me get a deep. Okay, let's hit this. Actually, I don't think I need this extension anymore. Seems like overkill. Put that right here. All right, watch that washer too. We don't want that falling in anywhere. Let's put these in here. Oh, 9/16, half inch. Take this out. Alternator is still hooked on the header mount down here, but we can get that out of our way. And let's put a slice on that hose. What I use for cutting my hoses is this baby. This is from Cobalt Tools, Lowe's. Nice and simple. Hopefully there's not a ton of antifreeze in there. Watch this. Boop. Done. All right, now when you're lifting an intake, all bets are off. Trying to beat this thing with a hammer to get it off, you're probably better off just starting with a chisel. Break the gasket loose. There's certain areas where you can get in a little easier. Because generally, if you hit this thing with a hammer, it comes off. It'll only do that if it was put on very recently and the gaskets are still kind of soft. When this thing's been on this long, it's not coming off with that. Actually, you know what? I'm just looking now. This sending unit's hanging over the tip of the intake. We don't want to break that off in the block. Let me get a socket for that. And let's take that thing out because that's not going back on it anyway. And these, generally, you got to use a 12-point socket because they got a bunch of bumps on them. Okay, let's get that thing out. Okay, once you loosen up these oil senders, they just basically screw right out. Ooh, he used Teflon tape. That's good to see. Hopefully he didn't get it into the motor. All right, before you start banging on this thing, double check everything. Make sure all your bolts are out. 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6. Front stuff's out, hose is out. Okay, let me invite a couple friends to the party. This is my MC hammer. No, you can't touch this. This is my chisel. Let's put them to work. Little here, little there, little everywhere. You'll hear it starting to move. See, the China wall, you got to be careful. I don't like hammering on the China wall because you don't want to mess it up. So try and stick along the top. Work your way around the corners and see, now you're getting a whole bunch of dirt because all that oxidation's breaking loose. So we may hit it with the vacuum again. Okay, she's loose. There she goes, like a tomb. All right, I'm going to run vacuum again, quick, and then we're going to have the unearthing. Okay, I just made another pass with the vacuum, just all the stuff that got knocked loose, and I don't want anything falling in this thing. Please, if you know my wife, don't make any mention that I know how to use a vacuum. I've been playing that for 33 years that I don't. Just married 33 years yesterday. Please don't let her know I know how to use a vacuum. She's been buying it all these years. Let's pull this thing, see what's in it. You guys look first. Let me know. I don't want to look. Ugh. Whoa. Maybe I do want to look. Man, that intake's heavy. All right. You're seeing it for the first time just like me. Not bad. A little schmutz over there. I don't know what that is. Looks like a piece of metal. Uh-oh. All right, it's got the Permatex at the corners. That's good to see. See, that makes me nervous. We'll get a little light in these ports and see what we see. That's your water jacket, so that's going to be rusty. But push rods are clean. Valley is super, super clean. Looks good. Let me take a light. We're going to shine it in some of these ports and see what we see. Now the middle, that's your heat crossover. So that's going to have the carbon and stuff in it. That's normal. But these look like they were very fresh. Yeah, this engine has not been ran long. I just hope the cam is okay. If not, we're going to know when we drain the oil and cut the oil filter, because you will see evidence of bearing material. All right. Other than that, can't be happier. Looks pretty darn good. All right, let's get on to the next step. Looks good. Man, I was scared there, though, lifting that intake. Ooh, I pulled some intakes where you got a whole family of rats living in there and all kinds of rust and garbage and nests, and that looks pretty good. Overall, this motor looks pretty good so far. Pretty good. Okay, here's where we're at. I just snipped the 2 heater hoses off. Well, the one's off the intake, one's off the water pump. Took them off of here. I got a little drip going there. I got to put something under. Guys, just be careful with antifreeze. Get it cleaned up quick. Don't leave it for later, because antifreeze is poisonous to any of your pets, cats, dogs, birds. They like the sweet smell. They come drink it. It could kill them. So just make sure you clean your antifreeze up as quick as possible. Header bolts are a nightmare. Sometimes they're easy like this. Sometimes you can't get at them like this. You got to use open end wrenches. I'm going to try and zip out as many as I can zip out. I'm going to take the header off. I'm going to take that wiring off. And this car had a trunk mounted battery. He's got some big, looks like welding cable going to the trunk. We're going to rewire the whole car. We're not too worried about that. But one of the things I did want to mention that he did smart, if you notice, it's got another ground going from metal to metal up front. You have your negative on the trunk mounted battery in the back, but you always have to ground your engine block. Especially if you have like an automatic shifter with a shifter cable in a car. If you're going through shifter cables, it's because your engine block's not grounded properly. What happens is the shifter cable becomes the ground, it stretches them out, and they break. So add another ground to your engine, especially if you're running a trunk mounted battery, and you won't have shifter cable issues anymore with the automatic aftermarket shifters that run cables. All right, let me get this header off. All right, so let's try a few of these header bolts, and what I'm going to use is a shorty extension with a wobbler. If you've never seen a wobbler before, see how it's cut rounded on the bottom? So you can put your socket on, you can lock it tight where it don't move, but then if you go one click up, see how it wobbles? Gives you a little room if you got to come in at a weird angle for it to get on the bolt right. And 6-point, don't use a 12-point on these with all the lines. You're going to strip them. So let's try some of these, see how good we go. These usually have washers on them too. These are 7/16. This one I know right now I'm not getting at. The centers are easily, no. Oh, look at that. Can't even get near that bolt. Oh, same thing there. Maybe, nope. All right, so you could get 2 bolts out with a socket. These are some very vintage headers. It looks like they were white. I see a part number, which I'll look in my old catalogs. Maybe they're blackjacks or something. Used to be white. They might even be older than that. Yeah, so these. Nope. All right, so I got 2 out. I'm wrenching the rest out, it looks like. Nope. Okay. When you wrench these out, I'm gonna not make you sit through that. Regular, stubby. The stubbies are good sometimes if you got to get in like a weird spot. All right, let me pull all these out. Be right back. And she's off. 2 bolts came out with the ratchet. Everything else was done by hand. This gasket don't look too bad. I don't see no blowout or anything on it, but it was leaking. When you see stuff like that, all that carbon, your gaskets aren't sealing good. So you got header leaks right there. Okay. And the ports look good. Let me see, I got my light over here. Let me grab my light. Everything in the ports looks good, you know, rust-wise. And like I said, when you leave cars open header for a long time, it's very easy to get valves with surface rust all over them, but definitely running rich. All right, let's have a look at one of these spark plugs. That tells more as to how we're running. Yeah, definitely rich. You can see the black on them. You want like a nice cocoa brown color, means she's running good, but that's rich. This car had a, actually ironically, it's one of my favorite cars, 69 Plymouth Roadrunner Carter AFB on it. So it wasn't a huge car, it wasn't like a double pumper or anything, but definitely on the rich side. Oh. That's why I use the long extension. I know everybody's like, oh, why don't you get a little longer extension? See, and that plug was loose. And you could see a little carbon in that area too. If you look at the heads, I'm going to close up on that pattern once I get these plugs out. That one's a little better. Not as rich. You know, you got to realize too, if you got a car that's in a garage that you start once a year, it doesn't get a chance to get blown out or nothing. It just runs and gets shut off. That one's not too bad too. I don't see any oil on them. That's a good sign. You don't want plugs that are wet with oil. Means you got problems. Oh. There we go. Get down, header. Get down. Oh. You take a look, see this pattern around here? That's all your exhaust leak. There. Back one's not so bad. That's probably the best of the bunch. But when you see that burn, you know it's been leaking. Top tip that'll keep your hair flat to your head. Before you go disconnecting any starter wires, always make sure your battery is disconnected. You'll find out right away if it's still connected and you go taking one of these wires off or cutting into them. So always make sure your battery's off. All right, so I got these wires. I cut the small ones. I unbolted the big trunk-mounted battery wire. Man, that thing is huge. All right, let's see. Does this header come out this way? Nah, I don't think so with the starter in. I'm going to have to drop the starter and take it all out as a whole. But the header's down on the ground. I could run around to the other side now and get that one disconnected. Let's switch sides up. Okay, so this side looks like more of the same. Lots of really tight header bolts that some may come out with a socket. More than half of them probably got to be taken out with a wrench. They give you that nice courtesy dent in there. It does you no good. Headers usually give you a nightmare. If they're not bolting them in, the other nightmare is fitting the car, where you got to pound on them with a hammer everywhere just to get them to fit the car they're supposed to fit. We have a wonderful t-shirt on our website. Every pair of headers should come with a hammer in the box when you get them. It's one of our best sellers. Be sure to check it out. Every guy that's ever done a set of headers can relate to that one. Let me pull this one off. More of the same from what you just saw. And I'm going to get this alternator out of the way as well. Okay, I zipped the alternator off. It's got an old style header mount lower bracket. But man, look at the bolts under there. Those are going to be fun. Header engineers sitting around a table at a meeting. No, Bob, no, listen. We'll just put a big dent in the tube and taking that bolt out should be no big deal. Yeah, he's a mechanic. He'll do it. Mechanics can do anything. Driver's side is off. I zipped out all those bolts. Well, I didn't zip them, but I got them out. This side, you had to take the dipstick out also, which I was lucky. The dipstick was pretty loose. I just wiggled it and pulled it straight up. But in order to get this header out, you're going to either have to lift the motor, or it looks like it would go down under. But this is a 4-speed car, so it's got a Z-bar setup. Anything with a Z-bar setup, you got to take out of the way when you're doing headers 9 out of 10 times, unless they're like shorties or something. And basically, let me put a little light on this. Those 2 bolts in the back, see them there? I'm shining a light on them. They go into the bell housing. You take those out. This one just floats onto a ball, the bar going across that's connected to your chassis. I want to pull all that stuff out anyway. I want to clean it, lubricate it, get it, make sure it's properly adjusted. And when I put the next set of headers in, more than likely it would have to be out of the way anyway. So I'm going to take that out next. Just a couple bolts, it'll be out. We'll try and lift this header out from the top. Gasket was a lot better on this side. It wasn't as blown out as the other side. The old Mr. gaskets. These things are old. They're so thick. They don't make gaskets like that no more. These are just the plain Mr. gaskets. The new plain Mr. gaskets are like paper. But that's the good old days for you there. That's an old gasket. That's a good wall hanger. Maybe I'll save that for the wall. All right, let me knock that Z-bar out. A couple bolts and then it'll pull apart. And then we'll see if we can get this header out from the bottom, because then I want to get the oil out of this engine and see the filter down there, the blue. We're going to take that filter off, cut it open, and see what's going on inside. Okay, let's see. All right, so I took those 2 bolts, the bracket drops, the tube in the front, you pull it off the frame mount. See that greasy thing back there? Now you have to disconnect the rod. This is the clutch rod, actually, right here, that goes to your clutch pedal. And if you've never done one of these before, make sure you take pictures. Your phone is a great tool. All right, so now that's hanging down there. I'm going to pull all this up and out. All right, let me put this camera down a sec. All right, so I jacked the car up, gave it a little bit of height, and the header's just about to come out. There's only one thing in its way, the oil filter, which I have to take off anyway. So I'm going to take the oil filter off. I want to cut that filter open. We're going to look at the pleats inside and see if there's any kind of metal or bearing material. All right, so let me crawl down in there. It's hard to film this stuff, but I'll update you guys with each step. Let me take that filter off and we'll get this header out of the way. All right, so cutting an oil filter open. Sometimes they cut 1, 2, 3. Other times they're a nightmare. What I found is the first thing you want to do is take the rubber gasket off the oil filter. Otherwise, it's going to fight the tool. It's going to grip it. This is an old oil filter, as you can see. It's the Marathon Aggressor oil filter. Marathon gas. Jeez. Haven't been doing oil changes in a long time. This works like a tubing wrench. You put it in, make sure it's down all the way. You kind of make it snug, and then you're going to do maybe like a quarter turn. Sometimes when these are slippery, what I've found is I'll put a towel, like a rag, over it and use an oil filter wrench, because you can't always get the thing spinning good with your hand. See what I'm saying? So this kind of helps because it's cutting as you're turning. I was the bigger aggressor, got this thing apart, but man, I must cut 50 filters apart with this thing. That's probably why the blade's dull. But regardless, I've never had one put up such a fight. Usually 2 circles, it pops apart. These are the pleats. They're inside your filter. And what I like to do is pull them out, hit them with a light. You're going to see shininess because you got oil in there. But if you got bearing material or any kind of metal in there, you're going to see a whole different types of sparkle. It's going to look like it's really glistening. But this looks totally normal to me. Everything looks good. So everything should be good internally. From what I'm seeing here, I don't see any evidence, any glitter. Just the wetness of the oil, which is normal. All right, and let me drain this oil. I'm going to take a look at that too. The oil is out of the motor. It looked really good, a little thin. No issues, no water, nothing like that. It smelled a little gassy, but that's probably because the car hasn't had a long run cycle in forever. The one thing I did find, when this car was sitting, I used to leave a little puddle of oil, not a lot, just enough to make you say, hey, something's leaking. So I'm like, it could be rear main seal, but generally small block Chevys, the rear main seals don't give you much grief. So when I took the plug out, which was hand tight, I was surprised and wasn't surprised. If you take a look, let me see, hopefully that focuses. Look at the washer on that thing, all dried up and cracked and shriveled up. Now, if this car sat for a long, long time, that could be from, heat, whatever. That could be what made this feel loose, too, if that thing shrunk as it dried out. So I'm going to get a new one just because the top of it's hammered, too. But that's a good sign. It means someone was changing their oil a lot. But that was my drip right there. So now it's like, that's a, oh, thank God moment. You don't have to get too crazy into it. So basically how I want to finish up today is I just want to pull this water pump. I want to pull the fuel pump. Water pump's 4 bolts. Don't get on them with an impact because you'll probably crack one if you do. Break them loose. Use a long breaker bar or something. Not too bad. Then you could take them out with your power tools, your fancy fangled power tools that we all run to now. In the old days, we didn't have those, kids. We did everything by hand. All right, so that's your 4 water pump bolts. I'm sure more water is going to come out now when I crack this thing. There might be a little more left in the block. And then we're going to take the fuel pump off too. Not going to use the fuel pump, but I'll probably save this line. Actually, no. I'm probably not going to save that line because it's got a huge kink in it up there. Okay, that answers that. So that's all going to get tossed too. All right, let me zip this thing off. And this was that engine ground strap, which was a good idea. Probably reuse that or something close. See, long bolt, short bolt. Now, Small Block Chevy has 2 water pumps that have what's called the short water pump. It sits right close to the block, and then a long water pump sits further out. Long water pump also moves your fan closer, so I will be running a long water pump when I put this back on. There we go. All right, it's draining. Good thing I got my pan under there. I'm gonna save these bolts. Even if you don't reuse the bolts, at least you got something to match the size up with. Hardware is super expensive now, so if you can clean them and reuse them, man, it makes a lot of sense. Okay. Break it loose first. That one's got a washer on it. Washers always make me nervous. All right, Small Block Chevy fuel pump. The rod just dropped down. That's got to go up before you put the new one in. Just remember that. And now before this car sits, I'm going to cover all this up so that nothing crawls into it. Keep as much of the, well, this garage is very dry in here, so I'm not worried about getting any type of dampness in it or moisture in it. But what I'll probably do is tape it all shut with some duct tape, tape the porch shut, tape this stuff shut, tape the side shut. This way, till I get on it again, it'll keep everything out of there. All right, so that's going to be the end of it for today. I'm tired. I'm dirty. I want to go take a shower and relax. Listen, I want to thank you guys for watching, for coming along with us on the journey of getting this thing back on the road, getting it doing what it used to do. We're going to get it done quick. I'm not going to take a long time on this car. There's going to be a lot of videos posted about this car every step of the way. So be sure and subscribe. Also, check out our website, man. We're a hot rod t-shirt company mainly. We have close to 100 different retro designs. We also have probably close to 1,000 products, automotive related, retro automotive related. If you go to my website, racecityretro.com, you can't leave without buying something. It's that much cool stuff. Your next question is going to be, where did you get that cool Stars and Stripes tack? Well, I made it myself. We sell a Stars and Stripes tack kit on our website. It's $25. It turns your tack into a Stars and Stripes tack. Go to our YouTube page. You'll see I just posted a very detailed video how you can paint up your tack using our decal kit to look just like that. $25. Check it out, racecityretro.com. Please subscribe and follow us, and I'm looking forward to putting more videos together on this car. We got a lot more content on the way on this car. Every step of this build is going to be covered. You're going to learn a lot of things. We're doing suspension, brakes, wiring, exhaust, interior, body, paint. I'm flaming it. I'm going to teach you guys how to paint flames. Don't say, oh, I can't paint flames. After you see my video, you'll all be painting flames. Your refrigerators will have flames on them. You'll dig it. All right, once again, guys, thank you. Go build something cool today. Take care now.